Man, what could I say here? Everybody should know this one. This is probably one of the most ugliest ones there is. Next to, yeah, this is one. This is the beef between Kobe Bryant and Carl Malone. I mean, everybody pretty much knows the story. You talking about 11 years ago. But for some that are young, probably never heard of it and didn't know what was going on, this is what happened. Karl Malone was playing for Utah. And for those who don't know who Karl Malone is since he came in the league, he's been just stoic, kind of arrogant, flamboyant. He's a cowboy, just walks to his own beat, Louisiana. He had kids with other women. He never claimed them. It's fighting them in court because he didn't want to claim the kids. It's typical Malone. He got his own kids with his wife he married, some beauty pageant chick, and that's Carl, And the other girls he didn't want to claim, they twins. One went on to play for the Detroit Shock, and won I think she won a championship for WNBA. And his other son, the one he didn't want to claim, he plays in the NFL. He plays he's an offensive lineman for the Dallas Cowboys. And that just gives you an example of, they got his athletic ability, and Carl's ability on the court could never be questioned. But his personality and his things he does, you got to put him in question. Here's a guy, well, we all know he's slept with at least one other person's wife on a teammate of his when he was on Utah. That we know. Everything else is allegedly. I think when Carl was at the end of his deal, going to be a free agent, and he was getting ready to opt out of Utah, and the Lakers was talking about bringing him over to the team, and they were going to try to bring Gary Payton and Karl Malone into the mix with the Lakers, and that's where the Lakers felt they really needed the help, was at the power forward position. And then bringing in somebody with some experience like Karl Malone will open up a lot and take a lot of the double teams off Shaq and Kobe. They couldn't double anybody. They had to play them one-on-one. So Kobe was all excited when they got Karl to bring him over, because he always thought Karl Malone was a great player when they played against each other. So he felt like, oh, okay, this is good. Karl's coming over. And when he did, he saw Karl, met the kids, met his wife, and he introduced his wife, his kids to him, and everything was great all season long. And then when as soon as they met, these allegations came out. Kobe's on TV and Vanessa, and they had oh my God, they were just met, so they were basically consoling her through this time, and Kobe and everything else when this thing happened in Colorado, the case there, and Kobe's got to go on TV and say he's an adulterer, and Carlton was just coming into the picture. This is in the summertime, so he's like, oh man, him and the wife, they there for him, and he thinking Carl's his best friend. And all the time, Karl is plotting. Karl looking like, hey, if she ain't gonna be with Kobe, I might have a shot. Because I know things are rocky. Allegedly, this is what's going on. Now, Karl and Kobe, they play in the season. And the season, they go to the NBA Finals, they lose to the Detroit Pistons. And Karl hurt his knee in the series. Shaq and Kobe wasn't really on speaking terms the whole season. Shaq was injured most of the season. And Kobe ended up being the star of the team that season. So things started to shift. Everybody's like transitioning out from Phil to Shaq, and you got Phil, Shaq gone. You got Carl Malone is, just they didn't opt to bring Karl back right away because Karl had the knee thing, and he was kind of weighing his options on what is he going to do. He's a free agent again, and he kind of said he wasn't going to play anymore, and kind of wanted to see how the Lakers is going to look before he comes back. So Shaq, the big thing is about Shaq now attacking Kobe. It's Shaq versus Kobe, and Shaq making comments about Kobe, and then you got about the case, and then you got why he's in Miami because he's upset that ownership chose not to bring him back in and chose to build a team around Kobe. So he was upset about that and decided to go after Kobe and throw shots at him. So anyway, the season is going on. Phil Jackson book comes out. All these things are coming full circle. The book is talking about Kobe. So he's taking all this heat, all these shots are coming at him. Then here comes the Milwaukee date in the Staples Center. They playing the Milwaukee Bucks. Carl Malone is coming to sit ringside. He's, him cowboyed up. Got his cowboy hat on, his boots. Got his kids with him. So Vanessa see Carl Malone down there. So she called Carl's wife and said, let me get Carl's number because I see him with the kids, Let me tell him to bring, his daughters up so they could sit with the girls. So she give him the number, so she called Karl to tell him to come up there. So Karl goes up there to where Vanessa is. And right now they're warming up to play. And next thing you know, after that, they're warming up to play. And while they warming up to play, next thing you know, they're warming up to play. Karl makes his way up there to Vanessa, gives her a big hug, a big personal hug. Didn't want to let her go. And she was like, man, what are you hunting? And he was like, I'm hunting for little Mexican girls. and then she's just like smile and kind of smiled, and then they talk for a little bit, like how's everything been and this and that, like oh yeah, everything's okay. And she was like, okay, well you can leave the girls up here, and then Carl goes back to his seat, and she called Kobe on the phone. And Kobe's in the locker room or whatever, so Kobe gets the phone call and she said Carl just tried to hit on me. And she tells Kobe that she had that Carl saw her and can make his way up there. And she called, for some reason, I think she called the wife to tell her to tell Carl to leave me alone or something like that. That's when it starts getting, there was so many different stories told that it wasn't making any sense, but the story that I was told from them was that he came up there, and this is from the agent of Carl Malone, said that Carl said, like, she was like, what you hunting for? And he said, hey, I'm hunting for little Mexican girls. And that's what Carl said. And Kobe called Carl's phone, cussed him out, and said, hey, we can go outside and fight. We can go out back and do this. Like, he couldn't believe it. So Kobe was hot about the whole situation. So Carl Malone was like, what? And just couldn't believe it. He didn't deny that he was hitting on her or flirting. But he's like, I'm not trying to sleep with her. Like, he was like, I guess he was just playfully flirting, but he's like, couldn't believe Kobe was like getting all bent out of shape the way that he was. So after that, he just was like, okay, like, it's getting ridiculous. I'm just gonna start trying to, wind down so we can end this. And then all of a sudden, he turns around and Kobe's calling him back again, and they going at it some more. And he just has no energy to want to do it. So he calls after the game's over and everything. The next day he calls Carl house. And he's arguing at him again. And Kobe was like, Carl Malone was upset because he felt like, wait a minute, I'm just trying to go through this, and Kobe's like, nah, we was trying to call to get some, put this thing behind us and get this thing over with and move on, and we couldn't, to no avail, we couldn't reach an agreement. So they saying Kobe was threatening them, and Kobe was like, no, we talked. I was upset, but I didn't threaten anybody. So this whole thing has been going on for a long, 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 long time. And still, recent interviews, Carl Malone is still talking about fighting Kobe Bryant. Because, see, this is what really happened after the fact. Carl Malone decided, you know what, I ain't going to return back to the Lakers. Because he was going to try to come in like after the All-Star break, because he's a free agent, and try to see where the team was at, and then sign back with him. Gave his knee time enough to heal and everything. That was the only reason why they didn't sign him back right away, because he had the knee injury from last summer. He was still rehabbing the knee. So he was going to go to the Knicks. He was trying to go to the New York Knicks, and that wasn't going to go down. The Knicks wasn't having that. They had their own problems, and once they start you messing with Kobe Bryant and all that, no. That wasn't finna happen. So the Knicks turned them down due to the Kobe Bryant situation, and no other team would touch him. And Carl Malone wanted the opportunity to play for a big team where he had a shot to go for a title, and the only other team that was interested was the San Antonio Spurs, and they said, not a chance. Not a chance. They have zero tolerance for any of that stuff on the team. The Spurs, that's what they told him, and they had their own skeletons in the closet. And we'll talk about that. Tell you, the NBA is plagued with this kind of stuff. Plagued with it. And I don't know what it is about messing with people's wives and girlfriends and moms and all this stuff in the NBA. Are you kidding me? It's crazy. But that's all I have to say about that subject. It's your boy Carcino. I'm out.
Between you and Carl Malone, but I'd like to hear your opinions.
Well, I mean, like I said, when everything got started, and he had mentioned that our relationship kind of took a sour note because it's something personal. My response to that is, personal information is just personal. I mean, we just keep it between ourselves and amongst each other. I mean, that's it. We try to move on from it, but they wanted it public or whatever, word started leaking out. So it is what it is.
Is there any way to mend your relationship with Carl? I mean, some time has gone by. Is there any way that you can see to mend this problem?
No, not on a personal relationship. I mean, when all that stuff happened, I mean, we kept our mouths shut. It is what it is. I mean, you let him and his family deal with that situation or whatever, and we just kept our mouths shut. And I just came here to work the next day, just doing what we have to do. I didn't tell anybody about it because it's nobody's business. If Mitch and Buster them felt like it was right for the team for him to come back and play for us, then I just have to be a bigger man and just accept him on a business level as far as being a teammate and embrace him here in his organization. That's why I just kept my mouth shut. I didn't want to affect anybody else's decision as far as him coming back and playing or not. You know what, man? We've been through so much, man. Who am I to not be able to forgive an individual? Who am I to pass judgment on somebody? You know what I mean? I don't think anybody should do that. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, people make mistakes or whatever, and you're not going to have agreements with everybody. But you just kind of put it behind you. You just move on. You don't hold any grudges in your heart, and you just move on with your life.
What is your one message to a lot of fans out there? You got a lot of people standing behind you, but some people who aren't. What's your message to all the fans?
It's going to be on them to kind of sit back and just evaluate the situation and just think for themselves. What would you do if you were in my situation? Would you have completely flipped on him and came in here the next day and say, I don't want him coming back because this, that, and the other? Or would you have been, well, that happened, let them take care of it, just come in here, go to work the next day, and just move on with your life? You just kind of got to step back and just evaluate the situation. Not only this one, but the Shaquille one. The time, it just doesn't make sense if you think about whether or not he was traded, whether or not I traded him or whatever. If you sit back and really look at it, then it'll make sense.
I'll say he's the most professional athlete that I was ever around. But Kobe and I, you ask him that question. Here's what I tell you. I don't have a beef with him.
Have you spoken to him since you left the Lakers?
What's up?
That wasn't no big Rick Fox hug.
Hey, no. Look, you walking down this hall, I'm walking down this hall. I know what you said about me.
Yeah.
What up? That's it.
Yeah.
Meaning, what up now? However way you want to go with this.
Right.
But what up?
So
I acknowledge you, but no. The hugging and all that.
Do you feel tension when you see him?
I don't feel tension. But you got to understand, Mark, I'm a hunter. So I'm already right there anyway. You see what I'm
right. You ready at all times.
No. I'm ready at all times. But do I feel tension? But yeah, but you know what? Really and truly, how deep it is, you have the problem. I don't. Because I love Western. I'm old school Western. Back in the day when you had a beef, you didn't go get guns or knives. You just hey, Mark, I got a problem. We just go in the back with no cameras, no nothing, and let's just knuckle up and get it over with.
Did you ever make that offer to Kobe?
No, but it's standing with anybody.
He understands. He understands that.
No, it's a standing.
Oh.
Look, I don't want no trouble.
No, I understand that. I mean, did he ever say that to you? Because he was very upset. He said you did something inappropriate with his wife. He was mad. I always thought it was going to come to blows. Has Kobe ever said anything to you? Did he ever come to you in a way that made you think he wanted to fight?
Yeah, not really, but hey, you know, here's what I'll say to you. I don't have a problem. And people say whatever they want to say, and that's great. I'm 6'9", 272, to be exact. I'm not hard to find. I don't want no trouble. But if something got to go down, I'm not playing fair. We got to get down. Then we got to get down. I'm just telling you. Hey, look.
Understood.
Okay.